Little recap because we did Christmas, we did the Advent calendar, we did joy, peace, love, hope. The saddest joy, the saddest talk on joy was by Dawn. It was great. We cried 14 times probably, but that was the joy of the Lord. So we're back into our normal Sundays, and in the book of John I've never taught the book of John, so this is my first time teaching it. And it's just so revelatory on who Jesus is, his identity. It's a little bit different than the other three gospels, but it just goes after his identity. So going back into chapters, everybody loved Jesus. There was feeding and the bread and the fish and the minds blowing, and there was participation, the disciples, there was healing, and everybody loved Jesus. Like, it was a big deal. The storm, Jesus came, the water, and then it got a little bit real, kind of like the fulcrum in chapter 7, and where he talks about being the bread. You got to eat my body, drink my blood. It was kind of illegal to do that back then, probably still is now, but that was a big problem. And so they kind of went against him. In chapter 7, he talks about the bread and the bread of life, the wine. He talks about it was the Passover in that several months was from spring in chapter 6, the Passover to the Festival of Tabernacles in the fall. That covers that 6-month period. And at the end of it, they wanted to kill him. Has anybody had any death threats on them? Yeah, a couple of you. Andy, you have. I've been there. Protected you. They wanted him dead. But they wanted the same thing, which is interesting because Jesus wanted to die. They wanted to kill him. And they wanted the same thing as God. They wanted to take his life because they hated him. He came to give his life because he loved them. They wanted him out of the way. Let's get rid of this way. Let's get rid of this teacher. And he came to be the way. So the identity reveal was eat my body, drink my blood. And then it was the Passover. And he's saying, I am the Passover. Called them a bunch of hypocrites. We'll get into that a little bit with circumcision because of the work. You can't do work. How much work can you do on the Sabbath? 2 dry figs. See that? That's sharp, guys. 2 dried figs. That's a big difference than 2 wet figs. 2 dried figs. And he calls them on the hypocrisy of the law, the letter of the law. He calls them on it. And he says, I am the rest. I am the Passover. All who come to me who are weary and burdened, I will give you rest. Take my yoke and you will learn from me. I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. And he is saying that I am the rest. I am the water. I am your life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And then we had the division of who Jesus was. So in these chapters, in chapter 7, it was disbelief. He's saying some pretty lofty things that he is God, that he is the way, the truth, and the life, the body, the blood, the rest, the Passover, the festival. I am all of it. That was the foreshadow. I am the Messiah. Then there was the debate and the division. And now we get into chapter 8. If you need a Bible, they're on the back. We have a whack of Bibles. I was trying to figure out what a whack was. It's right, Hannah? She thought it was 40. She was going to order stuff, and she was going to order 40 of them. I said a whack probably is around 10, so that changed the order. But we have a whole whack of Bibles. And if you need a study Bible, there was a man that passed away, and he had a million Bibles. So I have access to those Bibles. If you need a study Bible, a commentary Bible, we have tons of those. So Bibles are in the back if you need one. As Pastor Andy said, if you don't have a Bible, that's like a hockey player without a stick. If you don't, if you don't have a Bible, it's like a chef without a spatula. We could go on, right, Andy? Like a military man without a gun. Yeah. Thank you, Andy, for all the words you have stuck in my head over the span of almost 2 decades. But Jesus went to the Mount of Olives. At dawn, he appeared again in the temple courts where all the people gathered around him, and he sat down to teach them. Just see the scenery. I get to kind of see this scenery every day in my house. I sit in a certain spot at a table and I start reading my Bible. I start getting into study. I get prayer meditation. And then the sun comes up in the kitchen and I can see it. It's really cool. And sometimes I want to be like, Vicky, look out the window. Usually she's sleeping. I'm up earlier. I'm more of a morning person. And it's such a beautiful time. And Pastor Andy's here. I've been doing a specific Bible reading plan for many years. I've switched it up recently, but some of you have been invited into it. It's called Morning Devo Time. You read a Psalm and a what? Proverbs. What's today? What Proverbs would you have read today? Proverbs 11. And a free read. And I've read the whole Bible like that. You pick a verse that stood out to you, that God spoke to you, write that down. And you do that 3 times, and then you just reflect on who God is, what God's saying to you. And it's a precious time right in. Andy says breakfast with Jesus, it shouldn't be heavy, a croissant and orange juice. I nailed it. Maybe a dried fig. Do your devos, guys. This is an important time. Jesus got up to model it. Early in the dawn, coming to the sanctuary. We are the temple. We get to have that in our lives on a daily basis. The teachers of the law and the Pharisees brought in a woman caught in adultery. They made her stand before the group and said to Jesus, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law of Moses, commanded us to stone such a woman. Now, what do you say?" They were using this question as a trap in order to have a basis for accusing him. So, kind of the 10 rules, and on the stones, the 10 commandments, there's some ones in there that are important. The reason that they're important, they decay society. They destroy our family vows. They destroy families. They destroy culture and society. What's number one, I would say, is murder. We could all agree that murder is never a good thing in our culture. Like, it's not okay to get mad at somebody and just do a little bit of murder. That's transcended into 20,000 years or 2,000 years ago. It's still valid today. From the tablets 5,000 years ago. How many years ago? Maybe 6,000. When were the tablets formed? 6,000 years? Help me out, Andy. Yeah, about that. All right. It's still relevant today. The other one I thought of that is a good one is idolatry. Don't worship idols. Don't worship, like the Buddhas or the statues or, the crystals or whatever. But what is idolatry? What is worship? Well, it's what I give my heart to, what I give my time to, my energy, my thinking, and hopes of receiving life and validation. And so this tool right here can be worshiped. How many times do you unlock it? How many times do you put your eyes on it? How many times do you go to the phone and not the throne? That was a Pastor Andy right there. That can be idolatry, right? That can ruin relationships. And you don't have to, do blood sacrifices and do weird stuff with idolatry and go to weird temples or whatever it is. You could just be sitting at your home and your wife's saying, "Hey, what do you think about dinner? Should we have the Ojalas over for dinner tonight?" "Excuse me." I'm like, "Oh, 1 sec. Yeah, what were you saying?" Right there, idolatry, my heart is getting in the way because I'm seeking something else. I'm not in communion. I'm not present. Where am I? Because idolatry takes me out, takes me away. What was the other one? I'm going to say adultery. Right up there in the top. It's going to wreck families. It's going to wreck your spirit. It's going to wreck relationships. All of those things are going to destroy some of our principles and values. So what's the trap? I'm always looking for the trap because maybe at the beginning you don't really see what it is. It's morning time. The sun's coming up and they caught a woman in adultery. They caught her. They caught her in adultery. I don't know what she's wearing at this point. It could be a bedsheet. They caught her, removed her from the situation, and brought her early in the morning. The rooster might have just crowed. What did they do? Crowed. It's the morning. This is an intense situation. At my house, some questions are a little intense. Like, hey, what do you want for lunch today? Hey, don't bother me. I got to get my coffee in our quiet time. I've learned I go 100 miles an hour in the morning. It's very hard for me in the morning. I try to be quiet, just like Jesus commanded, be still and know that I am God. And so that's the setting. You got a mob bringing a woman that was caught in adultery early in the morning. What's the trap? I believe every answer is a trap. Stone her, right? Let's stone her. What's the trap there? Well, now Jesus is in front of sinners. The prophecies of Jesus isn't even true anymore. And then it also breaks Roman law. The Roman law took away the ability for capital punishment for the Jews. You see that in John 18, verse 31, the Jewish leaders tell Pilate, we have no right to execute anybody. You got to pull the trigger on that. You got to implement this punishment, capital punishment. So it's wrong if they stone her, and it's wrong if they don't stone her, because this is Jewish law. So there's no right answer as far as we could think of at the time. It's a trap. Verse 6, but Jesus bent down and started to write on the ground with his finger. This is interesting because I want to give you the answer right away. If you know me and you come to me and you ask me a question, I got the answer pretty much. Or I say, go pray about it. One of those two things. I don't be like, we should talk about this. One sec. I think one of the cool things is if you bend over and take a time out almost, it releases the tension. It's almost like Jesus took a time out. That's wisdom. I like quick answers. I like rebuttals. I like to get into it a little bit. I like to be right. And Jesus takes a bit of a time out and goes to the ground and starts writing on the ground with his finger. He might have been thinking as well. It's good to think. A lot of tension right there. There's going to be a murder in place. It's early in the morning, and he might have been thinking, the Jewish law states that the woman should be stoned. What else? The man should be stoned. And he's probably thinking, who's the guy? Where's the man? Do we know him? Why isn't he not here? If they were caught in the act and there's a mob here, why didn't they bring him? Where is him? Who is him? Is him important? Well, now we got false witnesses. He might be thinking about this. The trap is that the law is always going to be hypocritical. It tends to, if you're by the letter of the law, there's going to be some times where it's going to be hypocritical. In such a stance, he might have been thinking about their last argument about circumcision and the Sabbath because he healed a man on the Sabbath. And they said, well, we should kill you for that because that's way more than 2 dried figs. Right, Hannah? Healing a man on the Sabbath is a little more work than 2 dried figs. Maybe not for Jesus, but they tried to trap him again. And he said, well, you circumcise on the Sabbath, do you not? Because if you know the culture, after a baby is born, 8 days later, he gets circumcised. So odds are, in those 8 days, somebody's going to be circumcised on the Sabbath. Isn't that a little bit heavier than 2 dried figs? I'm imagining. The hypocriticalness of the letter of the law. Verse 7. When they kept on questioning him, he straightened up and said to them, let any of you who is without sin to be the first to throw a stone at her. It's interesting because Jesus' rebuttal is saying that the law isn't wrong. He's not saying sin doesn't matter. He's not saying adultery is acceptable. He says the word in the Greek, anmarteos. It means the one who can't sin, the one who doesn't sin, the one is without any sin. They knew that word. He affirms the standard of the law, but he exposes the law's true demand. Justice must be served by righteousness. Judgment requires moral integrity. The law condemns sin, but it condemns hypocritical judges. Jesus revealed that you're on trial too. You brought her, now you're on trial. Where's the man? The man was in demand. The issue shifts from, is she guilty, to, are you qualified to judge? Again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. It's interesting because he's introducing the spirit of the law, the spirit that he came with, the spirit that he came in, and that is love. In the Old Testament, the law focuses on actions. Murder, don't kill. Adultery, don't sleep with another spouse. Theft, do not take. Don't take from me. What's Jesus say? Internal attitudes. What is murder? As Jesus outlines. What is murder? What does he say murder is? Hate in your heart. Resentment. Resentment is going to be the root of division and harm in your spirit, your spiritual condition. You don't have a heart to hold on to this stuff. What is adultery as Jesus is concerned? The spirit of the law, what is adultery? What? Lust. Some of you just went, okay, define lust. If you're asking, you're probably in it. How about stealing? What's the spirit of the law? Coveting. Imagine that. You're stealing by just going like, man, Rick's got nice stuff. His front of his house is nicer than mine. It is. How about retaliation? How do you retaliate? Love and forgiveness. You have heard it say that it was said, but I tell you, Matthew 5. So he's uncovering the spiritual principle written behind the letter of the law and basically saying all have failed and fallen short of the glory of God. And basically, you need a savior. You need a lamb that needs to be sacrificed. You need the blood in the body. You need a sacrifice. Verse 9, at this, those who heard began to walk away one at a time. The older ones first, until there was only Jesus left with the woman who was standing there. Jesus straightened up and asked her, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No one, sir," she said. "Well, then neither do I condemn you," Jesus declared. I believe that's what happens at salvation. I put my belief in Jesus. I have the Savior looking at me. "Then neither do I condemn you," Jesus declared. "Now go and leave your life of sin." He invites us into walking in purity and holiness, being cleansed by the Spirit of God, into sanctification. The word there is, it's hard to say, harm artano. It's another word for sin, but it actually kind of opens it up into to miss or wander from the path of uprightness and honor, to go the wrong way, to go and do wrong, to wander off the path. And I have a beautiful story of this because to me, that's what sin is. It tempts me out of the Garden of Eden. It tempts me away from the love of God. And I was at a grocery store. My son was young, probably about 6-ish, 5-ish, in that area, old enough to walk around and be curious. And I'm pushing the cart and he walks to the end of the row and end of the aisle. And I'm like, oh, I put down my can and I kind of follow him. He's curious now. He wants to go see stuff. And I know that there's displays. I know that there's danger. There could be a predator in this place and he could just take him. And so I follow him and he's going around and he goes up another aisle. I'm like, when's he going to realize? When's he going to wake up? And then he goes where the cooler section is, and there's people there, so I'm keeping an eye on him, but back far enough. And so somebody opened, I think the blast of cold air, he was like, all of a sudden he had a need that he didn't have. He always had that need, but it just wasn't exposed. And the need was warmth and comfort and security. And then he looked up and realized it wasn't me. And he started crying. And as a good dad, I didn't come running. I want to see the little sucker cry. I never want you to wander away ever again. And sometimes Jesus sends you into the storm. And sometimes Jesus doesn't come running all at once. He wants you to cry. He wants you to suffer. He wants you to reach out. And there my son is suffering and crying. And then I came to him and I put my hand on his head. And he looked up at me. And it's so cute when kids do it. And all of a sudden, every need was met in that instant. And guys, that's what sin is. It's not about actions, because that's can be very subjective. It's the spirit. How far away from the spirit am I getting? The tempter is always trying to tempt me outside of the garden, outside of the love of God, to wander. To wander. Okay, so if you're like me, I'm very curious. Y'all know that there's no book of Jesus. There's no gospel of, he didn't write a book, which in my opinion, we were talking about that, Zach. It's like, why wouldn't he? Like that should be the pinnacle of the whole Bible. Everything should fall off of it. Like Jesus should have written something. Shouldn't he have? I know you might be wondering the same. You might have never, but there's no writing of Jesus. There's no documentation of him writing. This is basically the only circumstance that we've been shown. There is another one, and I'll bring it up. But me as a curious young boy, I want to know what was written. I want to know. Don't you? Don't you want to know? Okay, we don't know. But I have 4 options that could be. This is me playing little detective. He wrote the sins of the accusers. It's a popular one. That would have taken some time. There's maybe the older guys are a little wise, so they're like, hey, I want to get out of here. I'm guilty too. That might have been one of them. It fits in with them leaving oldest to youngest. It fits in with Jeremiah 17:13. Those who turn away from you shall be written in the dust. There's that option. He wrote the law, especially the commandment that they broke. So he might have said, you're missing a witness. You're a false witness. You're no better. He might have written nothing meaningful at all. He might have written his name. He might have written her name. He might have drawn a picture. I'm not sure. But he might have been delaying. He might have been diffusing. I think all of these are good things to remember when there's a crowd of angry people that want murder. Or, number 4, there's probably 10 more, but I have 4. Number 4, he was echoing God writing the law with his finger. In Exodus, the law says the law was written by the finger of God. When the Lord finished speaking to Moses on Mount Sinai, he gave them 2 tablets of the law of the covenant, the tablets of stone inscribed by the finger of God. Jesus, writing with his finger, might subtly signal his divine authority. Because they will have all this memorized. They know all this. And they see him writing on the ground. Could have been any of those. And then I thought, where else did God write on a wall? If you know Sunday school, I grew up in the Sunday school era of the flannel graph Jesus. Anybody got flannel graph? No, wow. Joyce remembers, yeah, of course. And I remember the flannel of the Daniel in the lion's den. And the Babylonians, they led by King Nebuchadnezzar, they conquered Judea and took many of the Israelites, including Daniel and his friends, to serve in the king's court. This is the short summary of the story. King Belshazzar, he was kind of a co-ruler. His dad they were related, but he was a cousin or relation of King Nebuchadnezzar. And they were having a party. What king doesn't want to have a party? A blind king, a proud king, a king that's on the top and the pinnacle, being worshiped probably, being praised for all he's done. And he throws a drunken feast in his empire. And I don't know how the story went, but he's like, man, we got cool stuff. We got the stuff of God in the temple and the glory of God. Why don't we get those things? You know, it's like, has anybody had a party at their house? And while their parents were gone? And you hit the top shelf of the stuff you're not supposed to touch, the glasses that you're not allowed to touch. You went in people were in places that would get you grounded for a month. You might have borrowed the car, right? No one's looking. So they wanted to amp up this party and get all the cool stuff that was designed by God, made by his servants to worship him. So they went and gathered it all. And they were probably doing funnels, and they were probably, popping the bottles and pouring. They might have done a champagne thing where it's all coming down. They were having a great time. In the middle of the party, a hand appears on the wall and starts writing, and the king is terrified, and none of his wise men. Imagine that party stopping that quick. It's kind of like when the cops show up, the party stops very quickly. It's kind of like when a hand shows up and starts writing on a wall. Does anybody know what was written? Come on, Andy. Meeny, meeny. Yeah, there it is. The writing on the wall. I looked it up. That's where that comes from. The writing is on the wall. It means your time is up. You failed the standard. What you have will be taken. And I believe in that story, it was taken that night by another empire. And this is the difference between the law and the contrast of the Bible, of the gospel, of what Jesus brought. The law where that God judged the pride, demands accountability, the things that were used to defile his temple. He rained judgment on them. The law exposed the weight, and you were found wanting. In Daniel 5, here's the contrast. God writes judgment on the wall, written in stone. Jesus bends over and writes it in the dust. What's the difference between dust and stone? If you write anything in dust, it gets erased real quick. You can go like this. The wind can blow it. Anything written in stone never goes away. In Daniel, the king was guilty and condemned. In John, the guilty woman was forgiven. The same God, different response. Belshazzar mocked God. The woman stood silent. The gospel says you were found wanting, but Christ was weighed in your place. There's a warning here. In the New Testament, in the gospel, what are we considered? We're considered the children of God, his holy temples. We don't go to the temple, we are the temple. We don't go to church, we are the church. We are his holy vessels. And I'm telling you, women are the sacred vessels from God's temple, and they're not to be used for entertainment and idolatry. That's a warning, men and women. Men, we too are sacred temples, sacred vessels in God's temple. We are the temple. Let's not defile them. Let's understand that we are both the holy presence of God and treat each other with love and respect and honor because God does. God's living inside of us. The same spirit that raised Jesus from the dead is inside of us. And some of you are taking advantage. Some of you are manipulating. Some of you are conning your way into a bedroom or online or whatever it is you're using God's precious vessels, or you're putting stuff in to your holy temple. You're defiling your own temple. There's one more place that I believe Jesus wrote or written or is going to write. I'm not sure of the theology. I think it's already written. Can you guess where that is? Oh, that's another one. Good one. His inscription is on our hearts. Could be true too. What'd you say? No, you said it. Lamb's book of life. And that's the good news. That's the gospel, is that your name is written in the Lamb's book of life. And that's really what matters. Just as he wrote in the dust, one day he will write your name in the Lamb's book of life. In Revelations 20:21.